right. Hello, friends out there on the interwebs. Welcome. It is nice to see everyone. We're about to get started. Thais, are you here?
I'm here. Hi, welcome everybody.
I'm Howard. That's Thais. We're here from Vicasso. We're your hosts for the live stream today. And what are we doing today? Well, we've got a ton of new stuff for Simple Survey for the spring 25 release. I am going to currently make sure that all of the things like that our LinkedIn is live because people can be watching us on LinkedIn. And I'm going to just make sure that that's not getting too crazy here. I want to make sure that those comments are here. So hopefully that's all working. We've got YouTube going. This is all pretty great. So we're going to just jump back, say hello. Thais, are you excited about today's session?
I'm so excited. I love everything that we have to show for Simple Survey, so let's get started.
It's fair to say that we have like so much to pack in here. So without any further ado, I'm going to just let's just take a look at what's on the agenda. Okay. So on the agenda today, not a few things, but it looks like just a few things, two things, maybe three things. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go through all of the new built-in automation that we are providing with Simple Survey. The builder gives you all these great new features. We're going to talk about why you should pre-create surveys, which if you don't know what that means now, you will know when we are done. And we're going to answer the question, should I change how we already automate our survey programs if you've already got things in place? Second big part we're going to go through is some survey program maintenance. Something that we used to not be able to do was deleting survey programs. You had a very manual operation to pull them out of your org. We have basically made that almost 100% automated. And then we've got a couple of surprises. As it turns out, we thought we were going to have one surprise, but the second surprise landed. And then we'll obviously go through specifically things like when you can get all these things, which the short answer is when. What's the short answer?
When? Today?
Oh, today. Everything's today. So everything's there for you, which is pretty great. So without much further ado, I think the first thing we wanted to do was jump into a demo, Thais, right? Just talk about that automation.
That is right. But first, I just want to show some minor changes around the builder, especially for the Select Existing tab. So you're going to see now that instead of that list with all of the programs, you have new tiles. And the tiles have the title, the rating scale that you're using. You can also see some important information about those programs. So you're going to see all of that there in the notification space, and then some key information too. We also changed the way that you can start editing your program. So you just click the edit button. And then we also have a drop-down menu where you can deactivate programs and either enable or disable test mode.
Okay, so test mode. Before, if you wanted to be in test mode, it was different links were in test mode. What's the difference between how we used to do it and how we do it now?
So now you're just going to get one link for everything. When you're in test mode, all of the survey records that get created, they are still marked as test data, so you can exclude them from your orgs, but everything is just easier to manage. So you don't have to be updating those links, create new email templates, anything like that. You just enable or disable the test mode and we got you.
It's a really great thing to do because sometimes like we heard from customers that they would get everything working and then they would have to like regenerate their templates out of test mode, or they would have to take all those things and turn things basically like they would test it, but then they had to like test it again and then delete stuff. So this is sort of a nice way to just say, we're in test mode and everything that you're building will just come through as if it's test mode. So it's just a great way. Keep those survey records organized, make it easier for people to build things. Okay, what's next?
So let's talk about the first automation that we have. And for that, I'm going to open one of the programs that we have by clicking the edit button. And I'm just going to navigate to the first subtab of the configure survey object. So you're going to see that we have some new subtabs, just dividing everything into settings that make sense. And the first one is that you can rename your survey programs now. And we also moved the program expiration setting to that first tab. The field assignments tab, we had some minor changes here, Howard. Do you want to run through those?
Yeah, one of the things about this field assignments page, the old way that we did it was actually backwards, where it looked like the survey field was mapping to the record that you were coming from. What we're showing you here is from the case, when you create a survey record related to that case, we're mapping the case ID to that survey record or the account ID to that survey record. So it's a little bit clearer about what's being mapped from the originating object to the survey record. It's just a nicer way to do things that way. It's a little easier to handle from just configuring and what's going on.
Yeah. So now let's actually get to the good stuff, the pre-creation of survey records. So in the record settings tab, you're going to see a new setting, automatically create those records. So it's always going to be defaulted on new programs, but you can choose to enable it or disable it. And then the first thing that you need to do is tell Simple Survey when those records should be created. So you can click on the edit criteria, and then you can add things, whatever it is that you want to do. You have the freedom to do it. So we're just going to run through the most basic scenario that we see. So whenever a case is set to closed, we are going to pre-create those records.
Now, one of the things that I really like about this is instead of wanting to know like what's in that criteria and having to open it to edit, we actually give you a plain text edition of that. So it says survey records will be created when the status equals closed. It's just a very nice way to see what's already there. Now, I'm also noticing something from their survey fatigue is here. That's new in the builder, correct?
Exactly. So it used to be a global setting in the setup wizard, but now it's a program per program setting.
Now,
and why is that, Howard?
Yeah, per program settings, one of the things that we really wanted to get to with survey fatigue per program. So just consider that you've got two different survey programs. Maybe you've got sort of like an annual customer like feedback survey, which you always want to send. Every customer should get it. So you don't ever want those records to be fatigued. You always want to have those sent. But then you might have a support survey where you don't want to send them more surveys than like once a week is plenty of those surveys, maybe once every 2 weeks. You can set the survey fatigue setting on the customer support survey to 14 days. Hey, no more than once every 2 weeks. The annual program that you always want to send no matter what, you set it to 0 days, so it won't ever fatigue. So now you can have a support survey that goes out the day before your annual feedback survey. That goes out great. Your feedback survey goes out because it was supposed to. There's no fatigue setting. But then they have a case like a couple days later. That survey won't go out because it's been within a few days of that survey going out. And that's any survey. So what happens is you have sort of a single date that every survey program can respect in the number of days that you set for that survey fatigue. So different programs can have different settings, and you're all sort of managing it in one place. It's just a very nice way to kind of work through that. So let's jump back in and let's take a look at that flow generation at the bottom.
Yeah, it is a flow that we're using to create those records. So right now you're going to see that our flow is up and running, but if you're configuring this setting for the first time, you're going to see a button that says create flow. And we're going to give you a flow per object. So if you have 3 survey programs on the case object, they're all going to use the same flow. But then if you have programs on the opportunity or the user, whatever object, you're going to get different flows for those.
So in the past, if you wanted to have surveys on different objects, you had to build different automation for each of those different objects. And now that's just sort of built in. But what that also means is if you want to have multiple survey programs on the case, our built-in flow handles all of the survey programs for the case object or all of the survey programs on opportunity or on your custom object. It's all just like there's automation per object, but then later on, we're going to get into the automation that is the sending part of the automation.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump to the last tab for that. So that setting lives in the delivery and deployment settings under the email template tab. It's all the way at the bottom. So you want to make sure that you first create your template and then you enable the setting, and it's called automatically send survey emails. And then the only thing that you need to do here is define who the recipients of that survey email should be, and then how long after those records were created that the email should go out. So it's very simple, easy to configure the setting, and that flow is going to be created and updated with the values that you use here.
And again, what you're seeing there is we're showing you in terms of timing and recipients. We're trying to make it as easy to understand as opposed to like a little grid. It just says like the survey should be sent to the case contact 1 minute after the survey record is created. So that's really great. Do we want to show, like, do we want to close a case and show the survey in action, or do we want to talk about?
Yes, let's show everything in action.
Perfect.
So I'm going to jump to another tab here, and I just have a case that I have open that I want to close. So I'm just going to change that status. going to save. Okay, saved. And now I'm going to jump into the Simple Surveys tab to see that record created. And you can see here that I have a new one that was just created in a pending status. So I'm just going to open that one up. And you can see already that we have new statuses for all of these automations for us to manage everything. So as soon as it's created, it's in a pending status. And here in the send information section, you're going to see who that email is going out to and when. And we also have a new survey URL field that has that URL for the program that you can use in a chat, or if you want to survey from an SMS message, so you can use this URL wherever you want to.
We have traditionally, like, there's ways that you were able to build those links yourself, and we'd advise people to build those links for their particular things. But pre-creating the records really makes it super duper easy. So if you wanted to do something like, say, mixed channels, for example, if you had something that said, hey, when this chat closes, give them that survey record. But if they don't answer it in the chat, we can then follow up by sending them the survey via email. So it really lets you use one program across multiple channels because of the pre-creation piece. Hey, I'm imagining you got that survey via email, but you could also just click on the link. Like, let's look at, let's take that survey.
Yeah, let's see. So I'm just going to click here, which is going to open the landing page. And then we can show like all of those statuses changing as someone would be responding. So let's say that I first click the link and I refresh that survey record. You're going to see that the status changed to responded. But then if I actually start taking the survey, that status is going to get updated. But first, I just want to show you something that we can now make it easier for people to resume an abandoned survey. So I'm actually
just close the tab. Just close the tab.
Close the tab.
Kill it.
Yes. And then let's say, oh, it's been 2 hours. I want to take that survey again, but I'm going to pick it back up where I left it. So you can see here that it was the question that I had open before. So resuming those surveys is much easier.
That's so great. What does that survey record look like before you finish it? What does it look like of that in progress? So remember, we had pending, and then we had sent and responded, and now it's showing as partial there. That's really great. So let's go back, complete the survey. Let's just complete it out so we can go full circle with this.
And I love everything about this person.
Awesome.
So I finished that survey. I'm going to close here and refresh the tab. And then you're going to see that it's completed.
All right. And then if you look at the data down below, we have this new section of send information data. That's going to show you when it was sent, what the URL was, if it was sent to a contact, a lead, or a user, because we support all of that. But it also gives you the snapshot field. Now, what's really interesting about the snapshot field, and I know this is like, there's all this talk around AI. That snapshot field, because of the way that it's defined, is really easy for a large language model to process and understand, because it's combining questions with answers as opposed to just generic scores. We're saying like 10, extremely likely. Like, we're inserting the numbers and the definition of those numbers, things like satisfied, or things like, you know, the thumbs up, or even if the question was skipped due to skip logic. So it's something that your prompts can really understand. So I think that's the demo for this part, Thais, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, let's switch gears and let's just talk about that. Cool. So why should survey records be created? It is a great thing that you can do in terms of getting a true response rate. All of those survey records that are going to get pre-created are going to be in the different statuses. So you'll be able to see things that are sent. You'll be able to things that are just responded, like through the first click. Things that are partially responded, they only got halfway through and maybe they abandoned, or things that are absolutely completed. That's great. You're also going to see a status for fatigued, as in the record was created, but we didn't send it because it shouldn't have gone to that customer. So imagine that you now can see a really clean view of that, and reporting is just way easier because of that. I mentioned this before, but this is also ideal for multi-channel support. The one record can be distributed in whatever channel you want it to go in. And once it's responded, the automation says, well, this has already been responded to. I don't need to send them an email. Thais demonstrated how much easier it is to pick up where you left off. So if you want someone to pick that back up, Previously, people had to build all kinds of crazy stuff to make that work. When pre-creating survey records, you kind of get that just easy by default. Side effect to all this, it's not really a side effect with this is one of the things we wanted to do. A lot of those duplicates from like spam bots or multiple clicks and stuff like that would create that. This prevents a lot of the duplicate problems that we were seeing in the past. So this is a real big win all around for our customers. It's pretty great. Sort of at this point, if anyone's got any questions, please make sure to put them in the chat. We're taking a look at this. But before we get into the second piece of this, I kind of want to have a little discussion about whether or not you should switch to this. So let's talk about the advantages and the disadvantages of that.
Yeah, so should you do this? And it actually depends. So if you want all of the benefits that Howard just talked about, we highly recommend that you do the switch. But if you are happy with how everything is working today, you already have your local automations in place, your surveys are going out, people are responding, you actually don't have to change it. But just getting that true response rate, I think it's a big win for me.
Yeah, I know that if stuff's working, there tends to be this tendency not to break stuff, but there are definitely some advantages. So I could imagine if you already have a survey on case closure, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, well, we want to have a survey for one kind of case and a survey for another kind of case. So now you want to do two of them. That would be a really good reason to say, look, my existing automation works, but because I'm going to introduce this new thing so that I don't have sort of like an old way and a new way working on the case object, I would get everything in the case object all on the new stuff. But if you have something else on opportunity that's working, I wouldn't break it just for the sake of breaking it, and to go to the new stuff. I do think the new stuff is really beneficial, and people should absolutely consider making this switch. But if you don't have to, again, if it's working, don't break it. So lots of really good stuff that way. All right. Program maintenance. Let's kind of go over what this looks like before we dive into a demo. Thais, deleting survey programs has been a problem for a long time. What are some of the things that we now do for that?
Yes, so if you want to delete a program, you have the option to, but you have to ensure that your programs are inactivated. And we actually make sure that all of the pending surveys are going to go out to all of the recipients. So we are taking into consideration the program survey fatigue setting and giving that grace period of the amount of days that you have for that feature plus 7 days. And for those programs that are not using the survey fatigue setting, you have to wait 7 days until it has been deactivated so you can clean up the org by deleting those programs. Then once you start that process, you're going to choose what items from that program you want to keep or that you want to delete. And those can be things such as the questions, the page layouts, and the email templates that were created. But then we still have one last manual step, just because Salesforce is a little, you know, how Salesforce is.
Yeah.
And when you are deleting a record type, you actually have to deactivate it and then choose a new default record type. So that would be the last manual step for full deletion of the program.
Got it. Should we jump into a demo? Let's see how quick that goes. This
Yes,
survey program
let's
deletion.
do it.
All right.
Yeah.
So Thais, let's delete a survey.
Yes, so I'm going to navigate to the inactive surveys tab, and you can see that we have the tab, and now we just have some sort ordering too, if you wanted to do alphabetical order or by last modified dates. But then I'm just going to delete this program here. And for that, it's already inactive, and I just click the delete button from that drop-down menu. I will just, if I wanted to, I could watch this video that we have that takes you through the whole process, but I'm just going to click proceed. And then I have to choose the items that I want to keep or delete. And the questions, if we delete, we're deleting just the ones that are not being used by any other program. Once I'm happy with the selections, I'm just going to delete. And then we're going to do everything that we have to in the background. It may take a while.
Yeah, yes. It takes a couple 30 seconds here to run through the little spinner, but it's no big deal. It's just, you wait, you talk, you think to yourself, geez, if I had to do this before, it was like a ton of steps. But now all you have to do once it gives you this message is click one link.
Yes, the record type. And that's going to open the record types in another tab for the simple survey. So the first thing that I need to do here is choose the one I want and click the edit button, because we have to deactivate this first. Otherwise, Salesforce is just going to scream at you, mad thing. So let's save. It's
So many mad
inactive
things.
now.
So many
I
mad
know.
things.
Then I go back to the list of the record type. I find that one that I want to delete. Click the delete option. Confirm, yes, I'm going to delete it. And then I have to select that default record type.
And we do recommend,
we
do recommend the default record type for this. Remember, we use that snapshot field that I showed you that's really good for AI. All of what was in there is listed in there. Nothing gets edited from the snapshot field, even if the individual questions are removed from Salesforce. You still get the results of that survey. So it's still good for things like AI processing or coaching or just reviewing what kind of response that you got.
Yeah. And then once I'm done doing the new assignment of the record type, I just click done. I can close this tab. And then if I go back to the builder, I just click finish. And then that program is out of the way. I don't ever have to see it again.
So in other words, something that probably took the better part of 30 minutes and a lot of manual steps and a lot of checking and finding different things and cross-referencing and probably not getting it all gone in the first place, we did in under 2 minutes while we were talking and doing a live stream. That's so simple. Yeah. That's so much better for survey program maintenance. It is definitely one of those things that's just like really, really nice to see. So again, people watching, if you have any questions about how this works, feel free to post it in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to get to, how should I put it? We're going to get to the first one more thing. Something that our customers have been asking for a while. When they first start with Simple Survey, they see the builder, they do all these things, and then they say to us, what are the good questions to ask? And we're like, well, you can ask anything. And what they wanted from us was just some really easy starting point. Something that said, for lack of a better term, good questions that people will respond to. Well, miracle of miracles, we have a new template library. What does this mean? When you start building these survey programs, you can download a zip file from our documentation, open it up. It'll show you, right now we have about a dozen different templates in there, depending on what kinds of conditions that you want to do. You import those files, you edit the program to fit your brand, you turn on the automation that we just talked about, and now you've got a survey program up and running very, very quickly. So I think we've got right here in our documentation, you will see the steps to do it. It's relatively straightforward. In the survey collection, you will actually see, like, if you scroll down, you'll see the different survey programs. So like, for example, if you wanted to click on like any of them, you can really click on. How about the, sure, anything.
Yeah, so I'm just going to click preview, and then you're going to see the actual landing page with the questions. You can take the survey to see what that experience would be for a respondent, and then you can make the changes. And I don't know if you noticed, but we have skip logic in place for some of them, because depending on the way that you answer, questions are going to show up
different questions. Now, one of the things that we did with these templates, and it is important to say how we handled this. We made sure that the templates just come with the packaged graphics that you get with Simple Survey. That's what's there. If you already have a survey program configured and you've got your branding done, you'll want to save that as a theme. And then you can easily apply that theme to this template in like one click. It's super duper easy. That's part of the theming that's already built into Simple Survey. So really, really good stuff there. All right. Do you want to demonstrate how to import a template?
Yes.
I want you to demonstrate. I want you to demonstrate how to import a template. Let's take a look at that.
Yeah, so I'm back in the survey builder, the create tab. You're going to see this new tile that we have. So you can just drag and drop the file. You can click the import survey button. So I'm just going to drag and drop one of those that I downloaded from the zip file. So we're going to do a product return or exchange program. And then the first thing that you need to do is accept the name that we have, or you can feel free to update it. Yeah, you can do that here, and then just click the import button. If we see that some of the fields already exist, you have the option to overwrite it, and then just click continue. And then we're going to do the whole import. And again, it's going to take a bit because we're creating all of those questions. We're doing the page layout. So we're doing all of that record type assignment too, so that your program is built completely.
And when I think about this as just a really good sort of quality of life, imagine that you're trying to get your team on board with Simple Survey. That initial meeting of what questions should we be asking? It's really hard for people to come up with all the different versions. Instead, what you can do is you can import this survey, basically this template, and then say, hey, here's a really good starting point. Do you like this? And then when someone would say, oh, well, I want to edit this question, or I want to change the way this is worded, it's much easier to edit something that's there than to just pull a new question out of your head, maybe change the order, then reapply how skip logic works, whatever you want. So, okay, so it's been imported now. I guess, what would you do? Click a button that's like the obvious button there?
Yes, continue to survey. So that means that we're going to be editing that program. And let's just jump into the add questions and branding tab, because this is where you're going to make sure that it's going to fit with your brand, with your colors, that the questions make sense for you. So you could just play around and start changing the logo, the brand color, or you can actually use different themes that you can create for your brands. So if I do that, you're going to see everything here reflected in the live previewer. Then you have your initial question, and then the additional questions here. And you can see that skip logic is present for some of them. You can rearrange the order. You can remove some of those questions. So you have full flexibility with the way that you want your survey to look like.
So that's great. I think what's really nice is when we introduced the ability to import and export surveys from one org to another, we were talking about this as like, we want to give people a really good starting zone. So we did some research. We looked at what were really good survey programs. We made sure that certain methodologies were respected. But we also looked at things like when our customers showed us what survey programs were working for them, we wanted to kind of borrow that language. And so we've got some really good starting points for you. They are absolutely designed for you to import them and mess with them. Like mess with them, customize them, make them to your liking. That is kind of the goal. But in addition to our one more thing, Thais, do we have one more thing to our one more thing?
I think we do. So we have 2 things total, and I love this one.
How much do you love this one?
It's pretty great, Howard.
Has anyone heard of Agentforce? I feel like Salesforce has been talking about this Agentforce thing for a while. What is that about?
So with Simple Survey, you can now download the Simple Survey Agentforce extension. So if you have your chat on your customer portal website, so if people are talking to you for interactions when cases are being closed, we have this for the messaging for in-app and web channel, the Meow chat, if you are familiar with those. And what this is going to do is actually, let's pretend I am chatting with a support person and I want to close my case and then send a survey right then and there in the chat. So we are going to identify the correct survey program to send to that person based on the case information that they're working with. So we're looking at the subject, the description of the case, and then looking at the program that makes sense, that has sort of similar questions to send to the user. And then we're going to get those records pre-created and show a survey link where that person chatting can just click the link, open the landing page, and take the survey.
This is one of those things that's especially useful if you are supporting customers in that Meow Chat channel. And you're like, well, we've got different survey programs. So maybe someone went on that chat and they were asking all kinds of questions related to an opportunity or a sale that was being made, a product order. If you've got a product order feedback program, great. That's something that you might want to send to them, as opposed to just saying, well, let's send them the standard chat feedback thing. You can say, hey, I've got a survey program for support. I've got one for pre-sales. I've got one for returns, all those different things. And it can look at that chat, determine the right survey program to send, give you the link. And it just it makes that whole process easier than you having to do a whole lot of logic when you're done to figure out what's the right survey program to do. So I'm pasting a link into the chat here about documentation for this. For those of you, Agentforce is new and a lot of people are just experimenting with it. But if you are down that path for Agentforce and you already have Simple Survey, reach out to us. We will make sure to help you work through this. It's very, very new. There's a lot of things that are changing with what Salesforce is doing. You should see this listing on the App Exchange today, and it will be part of that App Exchange homepage. Here are the Agentforce solutions within the next few days, I would imagine. That's at least my understanding of all that. Super duper exciting. All right.
Yeah.
So I feel like we've covered almost everything that we need to cover. What, pray tell, do they need to do to get everything other than click on the links that I've been pasting in the chat?
So make sure to update to the latest version of Simple Survey that is available today on the App Exchange. And once that is installed, you're going to see a new connected app setting. And this is just Salesforce's way of making sure that everything is secure. So you do have to configure the connected app before you can load and use the survey builder. So that would be the first thing to do. And then if you wanted to try the Agentforce extension, it is also live today, as Howard mentioned. And I guess that just go and have fun, play around with the new stuff.
Seriously, go and have fun. A couple of things, obviously I want to make sure if anyone's got any questions, feel free to post those in the chat. For lack of a better term, we know we've had a lot to go on and there's a lot to kind of try to pick up on. But first things first, when you download the new version of Simple Survey, you're going to have to configure that connected app setup to access stuff. Do that. If you run into any problems, obviously open up a case with us. We'll help get you squared away. That should all be pretty great. But with that, I kind of feel like we're getting to the end of our live stream here. Do you have any other thoughts, Thais, before we close this off for people?
Not really. I feel like we covered a lot. And all of these are very nice new features that are just going to make everyone's lives easier, just managing everything. So I highly encourage everyone to go upgrade the app and make sure to test everything in Sandbox. So if you build those programs, you can use the import feature just to move your programs from Sandbox to production, the other way around. So yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, with that, since we are pretty much all set, we are going to take our leave and we're going to say thank you very much for being here on this live stream. We look forward to seeing you on an upcoming live stream again, and enjoy all of the new stuff with Simple Survey.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.